Hey guys, here we are again with another guitar build video. The last time I had a video, I think I was talking about cutting out the body of a Strat. I've got that done, got that partially finished, somewhat smoothed out and all routed out, looking pretty good. It needs to have the finish sanding done on it before I can actually put any paint in it on it, and I've got to cut out the route for the neck fitting. I'm waiting on the neck. I got the neck ordered. Once it gets here, I'll make sure that I fit that to that specific neck. In the meantime, I've started on another guitar. I knew I was going to do a Gibson style guitar, but I figured I might as well get ready and do an SG. So this is a Gibson SG style. This is a rough cut. Still needs a lot of work on there yet. I've got to, just basically roughly cut it out. The next thing would be to run it through the thickness planer. The SGs are quite thin. Compared to some of the other guitars I've gotten. The inside source that tells me, who has one actually, measured it up, tells me it's about 1.5 inches in thickness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this through the thickness planer. I'm not going to take it down to 1.5 inches just yet, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to smooth out both sides pretty good, take it down some. This is about a little over, it's about a I think it's 2.25. I think it's 2.25. I've got tools to measure here somewhere. Not sure what I did with it, but I'm going to have to assume it's 2.25. I'll measure it up here once I get going. I won't cut it too thin. But yeah, 1.5 inches is about the finish thickness of the SG. Now this is out of the same wood that I used for the Strat, so it's still got the centerpiece there. That's the heart of the tree. That's still in it. The back side, you can still see where there's actually there's still a pellet in here from the shotgun. I haven't taken that out yet. I think you can, I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a pellet right there. I've got to take it out. One little BB that's a half sliced, because when they ran it through the saw, of course, they cut the BB in half. There's a few other holes there where I'd already picked the BBs out. So yeah, and it's got that character on the back I was talking about before when I showed one in the video, but I'm not going to worry too much about that because it's going to be painted over anyway. I'm not going to leave the wood grain showing. I've yet to do a guitar where I leave the wood grain showing. At some point I'll probably do that, but well, this was cut out with a router. I made 3 passes. I cut to a certain depth with the router, and then dropped the bit and cut a little deeper, and then dropped the bit, cut a little more, and then I went over what was left with the bandsaw, cut it out. So the shape is there, but it's rough. It still needs to be rounded off. This looks square in the edges here, but that's because my guitar actually came right out. The very tip came right out here, so this needs to be rounded off in order to make it look the way it's supposed to be. It's still pretty close to the actual size of an SG. So the next thing is, like I said, I got to run it through the thickness planer, and I'm going to run it with the pellet side down because I don't want my blades running over that pellet and dulling it, although that little tiny BB probably wouldn't hurt it a whole lot, but still I want to keep it sharp for as long as possible. So I don't want to have to replace the blades anytime soon. I should get a lot of use out of this before I have to do that if I use best judgment when I'm putting wood and stuff through it. I won't even put any wood through it that's got glue in it, like a plywood or anything like that. I don't want to do that because the glue is really bad for, I think, dulling the blades, and I don't want to do that. So it's usually going to be, anytime I use it, it's going to be, wood, real wood, not some form of a composite. So I'm going to run this through a few passes, and then when I'm done with that, what I'll be doing next is I'll be sticking this template back on again. And once it's back on, what I'm going to do, because this SG actually has a lot of beveled edges on it, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, these marks here indicate where the bevel edges are supposed to be on the SG. Got some here, we've got some here, we've got some here, and around this edge here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this back on. Then I'm going to cut this off, this piece, any place where there's supposed to be a bevel edge on my template. I'm cutting that piece off, and then I'm going to take a marker and trace that around that onto the wood so that I know where it's got to be beveled. Then I can actually go ahead and do some beveling on it and get it close to what it should be. Even if I bevel it and it's still too thick, and I run it through the planer again, that's not an issue because all I have to do is go over the bevel edge where I beveled it and take it down just a little bit more. But I do want to get the bevel stuff marked out on it, and I do want to get it beveled somewhat so it starts to look a lot more like the SG. The same thing goes with this one when it comes to cutting out the neck relief for it is that I'm not going to cut that out until I actually have a neck ordered and have a neck here for it. Now this one's a little different than what I'm used to. I'm not sure. Normally, this part here, the neck relief, usually comes up about here. This one looks a little different. It's got something going on here, and I'm almost wondering if this is actually, yeah, this is probably a template that's specifically set up for a Gibson SG where the neck is set and glued in. The neck is not a bolt-on neck. So this might pose a little bit more of a challenge, and I didn't realize that until just now. I'm sure that it wouldn't make a whole lot of difference. I mean, I could probably still do that. Excuse me. I think I have room, if I want to extend this further in this way and leave about maybe 3/16 of an inch to maybe a 1/4 inch between the pickup and the actual end of the fretboard. But I'm not sure if I want to do that or if I want to go ahead and actually do a set style neck where it's glued into the body. The only thing about that, I think, is that when they do it that way, there's usually a maple cap or something that goes over top. So that's an issue because I'm not capping the top of this. All I'm doing is routing it, putting the pickups in, putting the pick guard down over where it's been routed. Yeah, that might cause some issues. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to do that yet. I've got to give this some thought. But nonetheless, regardless of how I route it, I could still go ahead, finish the outside shape of it, and do the bevels on it anyway. And then I can go from there after that. This is going to be a little bit interesting, guys. It's going to be a little bit different than what I've done before, unless I do go ahead and put, like I said, the bolt-on neck on it, which I could do, but I'm not sure yet. Just not quite sure yet. So let's go ahead and take this piece of template on here and go around it with a utility knife and cut those edges off that are dotted for the bevels. Use the black Sharpie, mark it out, and take the template off and start beveling it. But first, got to go through passes. Got to go through the planer with a few passes first, and bring this thing down because it's way thicker than it needs to be. I will actually stop the video right here, run this through a couple of times, show you the results, how much smoother it's going to be than what it is right now. Right now I can tell just by rubbing my hand over it that it's got a lot of low spots or high spots, whichever way you want to look at it, and that it's not completely smooth. But when I'm done with it, I can put a straight edge on it, and it'll almost be to the point where this, it'll be completely flat. There will be some minor low spots, but that's what the finish, the sanding, what's it called? The sanding primer is all about. You put that on, cover the whole thing, and sand it, and you can identify where the low spots are. You keep sanding until all the primer is gone, and when all the primer is gone, you've gotten all the low spots out, and you're pretty much flat. It doesn't take much sanding either by the time you've gone through the planer a couple of times, because the planer puts it pretty close to where it needs to be. So, having said that, we'll cut the video short right here and pick up again once I've got it through the planer a couple of times.